And now let's take a look at our main event. It's the King of the Mountain match, and man, it's loaded. Remember now, Samoa Joe is working here with a torn tricep. He still works the match, and he is hurting something serious. Kurt Angle's going to get the win, though, in a match with Mick Foley, as well as Jeff Jarrett, Samoa Joe, and AJ Styles. And the story here is that Samoa Joe is turning heel. He seemingly has the thing won, and he's just going to hand the belt to Kurt. Sting had no idea this was happening. It's a big Russo like swerve, is the way it's described here. But Angle's got a new look, too. He doesn't just show up looking like Kurt Angle, he's letting his hair grow out a little bit, and he's got a beard going. And Meltzer would say he actually looks like his old mentor, David Schultz, the 80s gold medalist. And I wanted to know, what do you remember of this match? What can you tell us about this? How do you come up with the finish? I mean, coming into this with one of your top stars, a critical player in the match with a torn tricep, and one of your other stars has a totally new look. This is interesting. And you got legends in there like Sting and Foley, who respectfully may need, or not Sting and Foley, but Foley maybe needs a little bit of help. And you're in there holding it all together with AJ.
To me, AJ, Foley,
Joe,
and Kurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kurt wins the thing. Yeah.
Well, but just the dynamic of all of us, I thought made compelling TV because there was a lot of yin and yang across the board. But Kurt, I think, was doing or preparing for a movie.
That's right.
Or there were some things going on outside of in his career, not all that, but the story. And yes, just I'll call it the main event mafia, Russo, Mantell, Jarrett. We were just weaving stories in and out. And for lack of a better word, it was creative, which is subjective. And we knew that, okay, not everybody's going to, it's going to be a mixed bag, but we're going to tell our story, and they're not going to be disappointed with Kurt being champion. But I got to point out, having AJ Styles in this specific kind of match, he's great in X Division. Ultimate X matches. He's great in ladder matches, obviously singles and three ways and all that. On this episode, we didn't dive in. They did a three-way out on that West Coast swing. There was a fantastic match. I can remember the people just going absolutely bananas for it because it was a surprise live event match. But having AJ in this match specifically, it just always took the match to another level because AJ could cause a guy to take a fall and be put in the penalty box. Just AJ, I always looked at these matches, and I don't know how many while I was there, either AJ in it or Abyss or both. They were really a big part of the glue of these matches. AJ on this night, in so many ways, MVP.
Still great. Go out of your way to see it. It was the second best match of the night. And, they're using lots of fun stuff with the penalty kick. The penalty box, and it's a nice way to cover up some injuries or things like that. But ultimately, we've got Joe doing a Masawa elbow suicida onto Foley, and Jarrett on the floor takes everybody out. Styles gives Angles a Styles clash. He starts climbing, and Joe runs in. Power bombs AJ off the ladder. Joe starts climbing, holding the belt, and then Angle comes up after him. And Joe just hands Angle the belt, and he wins. And the show goes off the air with Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, Booker T, and Sharmell. They're all together here celebrating, but not Sting. And Meltzer would say the spots were better than the whole of the match, but it reads better than it actually was watching it. If you're into swerves that make no sense when you look back, then this was a great finish. Otherwise, you finish the show with the idea that nothing makes sense or matters. Between as much as Joe did while injured, Foley doing that elbow, and all the stuff Angle did at his age with his injuries, all coming just days after the Masawa death, you realize the drive to perform in these guys is to lead to the tragedies that were always a major part of the business. 3 stars. I don't know how to comment on the Masawa death, but goodness gracious, the swerve for the sake of a swerve. I know you needed a an excuse to explain away some of the injury stuff. But were you happy with the creative at the time? I mean, how far in advance did you guys land on that?
A while, and that's why people, our man Dave, just because he says a serve, it's a swerve for the sake of a swerve for him. And I think at the end of the day, Dave has, like all of us, a subjective opinion on storylines. Sometimes he don't like them. Sometimes they may go too deep. Maybe he never can land on why he doesn't actually land on it. But if you look at Sting and Kurt were the leaders, or Kurt was the leader of the main event mafia, but Sting's that icon. So there was always that kind of mutual respect. If you remember, folks, we did an empty arena match and they were coming to blows. And so in a lot of ways, all right, who's going to be the newest member of the mafia? Well, in the mafia days, if you want to lean into you got to kind of prove your worth. So what is proving your worth? And Joe had been a former champion, and just how are we going to get to the next step? And so it may be a little too intricate. It may be too much story. Maybe is it illogical? Like you said, hey, we're supposed to be simulating a fight. And in a real fight, would you do that? There's 1,000 ways you could rationalize, justify, or minimize the wrestling logic. But at the end of the day, it's a story, and a subjective story. It got us exactly, Conrad, where we wanted it to go. Was it 100% right or 100% wrong? No, it's all that gray area.
I really enjoyed the show. I don't know that I've never been a huge fan of swerves, but I understand, circumstances dictate that sometimes.
Now, wait a minute. Have you not really been a huge fan of swerves?
I mean, there some of them, but I feel like it's
Okay.
overdone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
Like the idea is like, is it a swerve? If you see like if you saw a swerve once a year, it'd be awesome. When you see one once a month, you just get conditioned for it. And I feel like it's become a tired wrestling trope where now we know when there's something happening, it becomes predictable. So you'll see when you're watching on TV, the whole crowd just starts looking at the ring entrance or the ramp, like, okay, who's going to run in? Because
So
we've
look,
just conditioned that. And like when I was watching on TV during the Vince McMahon era, I knew when the match is happening in the ring and someone gets thrown to the outside, oh, they're going to commercial. I mean, immediately when they get thrown out, I would say to whoever I'm watching, I'm going to fast forward through the commercial. What commercial? Well, the one that's coming right now, because they just do it so repetitively. And I think the swerve, I'm just looking for swerves everywhere now. I'm not allowed to just assume it is what I see. I'm just always like, well, there's going to be a swerve.
so let me ask you this. The Celtics and the Mavericks. I know you're not an NBA
No, I'm
junkie.
watching. Yeah.
Finals, right?
Yeah.
And I think they Boston going up 3-0.
Yep.
I mean, in dominant fashion. Like, in the words of my partner, O'Connie, I mean, they're taking those boys to the woodshed
Yes.
and they're making them like this ass whooping.
Yes.
Okay. To me, that's a swerve. A 3-0. I don't think anybody saw this coming.
No.
Maybe the diehard Boston. Okay. Well, guess what? Connie, I'm not a real big fan of this swerve. It sucks. It's boring. It's no fun. It's bad TV. It's channel changing. I turned the game off in the third quarter. Blah blah blah. So I guess what I'm saying is, in all of sports, I mean, Tennessee Friday night, you talk about a hell, they did a walk. I mean, it was an incredible swerve. Nobody saw them getting 4 straight hits in the bottom of the ninth to come back and win the game.
Right.
That's a swerve. So we enjoyed that swerve, but this boring ass 3-0, you know what I'm saying? So swerves happen in all the sports. I think it's subjective in how you look at it. So I'm with you. We are conditioned to look up the ramp or going outside the ring. I think all of wrestling is a swerve. It's just goes back to what makes a number one hit. Is it the song that's well written or the singer? Well, we both, or I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I believe it absolutely is both of them. But it's that talent has to really be emotionally connected. So I think when you don't like swerves, you might not be emotionally connected to the talent. And I'm not saying that's an end all be all, but It's a good. I mean, we wrestling fans could talk about this over and over and over. So.